The stolen scout ship shuddered as another plasma bolt streaked past its hull. Zixthar's three-fingered hands trembled over the navigation console, adjusting course for the 7th time in the last hour. The Velcrin scientist had never imagined this would be how their life ended. Running. Always running. Behind the small vessel, the enforcement fleet maintained its relentless pursuit. 6 warships, each large enough to carry 1,000 troops. All of them focused on one person who had seen too much. Zixthar's thin frame pressed against the pilot seat as the ship banked hard. Their species had evolved on Velcros, a gentle world with low gravity and calm weather. War was something from ancient history. Fighting was handled by machines and protocols, but none of that mattered now. The data chip around Zixthar's neck felt like it weighed 1,000 kilos. Such a small thing. Just records and communications. But those records proved what the Coalition Council had done. For 300 cycles, they had been suppressing technological advancement across the galaxy. Any species that developed faster than expected found their progress mysteriously halted. Accidents, equipment failures, scientists dying in strange ways. Zixthar had discovered it by accident, a pattern in the research grant denials. Too many coincidences, too many promising projects that ended right before breakthroughs. When they dug deeper, they found the truth buried in classified files they should never have accessed. The Council had noticed within hours. Now the enforcement fleet wanted that evidence gone. And they wanted Zixthar gone too. The proximity alarm blared. Zixthar glanced at the scanner. The fleet was spreading out, trying to box them in. Standard pursuit formation. They would close the net soon, and then there would be nowhere left to run. A red light flashed on the console. The hyperdrive was overheating. Zixthar had pushed it too hard through too many jumps. Another few hours and it would fail completely. The navigation display showed the nearby systems. Most were heavily populated. The fleet would just follow them there and make up some story about why they needed to take one small scientist into custody. No one would question the Council's authority, but one system caught Zixthar's attention. A red warning marker flagged it as restricted. The label read Human Military Training Zone. Unauthorized entry prohibited humans. Zixthar felt their pulse quicken. Everyone in the Coalition knew about humans, though most tried not to think about them too much. They came from a world called Earth, a nightmare planet by any reasonable measure. High gravity, extreme weather, thousands of predator species. The kind of world where evolution was a constant battle. The humans themselves reflected that origin. They were tall and thick-boned, built for their crushing gravity. Their bodies could heal from injuries that would kill most species. They needed less sleep, ate almost anything, and worst of all, they had been apex predators on their own world. Most Coalition species avoided them. There was something unsettling about beings who had climbed to the top of their food chain through pack hunting and persistence. Humans made other species nervous just by existing, but right now that restricted zone looked like salvation. The fleet would not expect Zixthar to go there. They might hesitate to follow. It was a chance. Zixthar set the course and engaged the hyperdrive. The ship lurched forward, reality bending around it as it jumped. Behind them, the enforcement fleet scrambled to follow, but Zixthar had gained precious seconds. The jump lasted only moments. When the ship dropped back into normal space, Zixthar saw a small moon ahead. Rocky, thin atmosphere. Exactly the kind of place humans would use for training because it was barely habitable. The console showed multiple contacts, human vessels in orbit, but before Zixthar could hail them, the hyperdrive finally gave up. The core went dark. The ship began falling toward the moon, pulled by gravity. Zixthar wrestled with the controls, trying to slow their descent. The ship was not designed for atmospheric entry, especially not a damaged ship with failing systems. The hull heated up. The cabin filled with smoke. Warning alarms created a terrible chorus. The ground rushed up to meet them. Zixthar pulled back on the controls with all their strength, leveling out just enough. The ship hit hard, skipping across rocky terrain like a stone on water. Each impact threw Zixthar against the restraints. Metal screamed. Systems exploded in showers of sparks. Finally, the ship ground to a stop in a cloud of dust and debris. Zixthar hung in the restraints, struggling to breathe. Everything hurt. The thin atmosphere of the moon made each breath difficult. They fumbled with the release, dropping to the floor when the restraints let go. The data chip was still around their neck. At least they had that. Zixthar crawled to the emergency locker and pulled out a breather mask. The device would filter what little oxygen existed outside. It would not be comfortable, but it would keep them alive for a while. Through the cracked viewport, Zixthar could see movement. Figures approaching. Human figures moving with purpose across terrain that would exhaust most species. The enforcement fleet would arrive soon. Maybe minutes. Maybe less. Zixthar had run across multiple star systems, jumped through dozens of hyperspace routes, and pushed a stolen ship beyond its limits. The chase had covered more distance than most beings traveled in a lifetime. And now it ended here, on a human training ground surrounded by the galaxy's most feared species. They activated the emergency beacon and opened the hatch. Cold air rushed in. Through the mask, Zixthar could see the humans more clearly now. 6 of them, wearing armor that looked designed for war. They carried weapons that seemed too large for any reasonable species to lift. The lead human stopped a few meters away. The armor's faceplate was dark, hiding the features behind it. When the human spoke, their voice came through external speakers, deep and steady. "You are in a restricted military zone. Identify yourself." Zixthar tried to stand, but their legs would not support them. The crash had done more damage than they thought. "My name is Zixthar. I seek asylum. The enforcement fleet is coming for me. I have evidence of council corruption." The human tilted their head slightly. The gesture reminded Zixthar of a predator examining prey. "Evidence? The Coalition Council has been suppressing technological development for centuries. I can prove it. That is why they want me dead." Before the human could respond, new contacts appeared in the sky. The enforcement fleet had arrived. 6 warships dropped into orbit, their massive forms visible even from the surface. A transmission crackled across all frequencies. The fleet commander's voice was smooth and confident. "Human forces, we are pursuing a dangerous fugitive who has violated Coalition law. Surrender the criminal immediately and we will depart peacefully." The human in front of Zixthar did not move. They seemed to be listening to something on a private channel. Then they spoke again, not to the fleet, but to Zixthar. "Can you prove what you claim?" Zixthar held up the data chip with a trembling hand. "Everything is here: communications, financial records, orders from the council itself." The human took the chip carefully, their armored fingers precise despite their size. They inserted it into a reader on their wrist. Seconds passed. The fleet repeated their demand more forcefully this time. Finally, the human spoke. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Special Operations Group. We will examine your evidence. Until we determine the truth, you are under our protection." "You cannot protect me from them," Zixthar whispered. "They have 6 warships. You are just 1 unit." Captain Chen's helmet retracted, revealing a human face for the first time. Dark eyes met Zixthar's gaze. The Predator's gaze. But there was something else there too. Something like determination. "We're from Earth," Chen said simply. "We don't run from bullies." She turned to her team and began issuing orders. The humans moved with frightening efficiency, taking up defensive positions. They acted like 6 warships in orbit were merely an inconvenience. Zixthar watched them and felt a strange emotion. Not quite hope, but maybe something close to it. The chase had led across galaxies. Now finally the running might stop, one way or another. The enforcement fleet commander sat in the command chair watching the tactical display. A single fugitive had led them across 4 sectors. Now that fugitive sat on a moon protected by humans. Commander Thexivor had dealt with humans before. Unpleasant experiences. The species was too direct, too willing to question authority. They had joined the Coalition only 20 cycles ago, yet they acted like they owned half the galaxy. "Status report," Thexivor demanded. "The human unit has established a defensive perimeter. 6 soldiers, light arms, 1 shuttle in orbit." 6 soldiers. Thexivor's mandibles clicked. "We have 6 warships. Inform the humans. If they do not surrender the fugitive within the hour, we will consider them hostile." The message was sent. The response came quickly. "Sir, the human captain requests to speak with you." Thexivor activated the channel. A human face appeared. "Captain Sarah Chen, Commander," Chen said. "We have reviewed the evidence from Zixthar. The data suggests serious irregularities. We request permission to conduct an investigation." "There will be no investigation. Surrender the fugitive immediately." "The fugitive is claiming persecution. Under Coalition Charter, we have the right to grant asylum during an investigation. You are protecting a criminal. You are asking us to hand over someone with evidence of crimes by your government. We will not do that without review. Then you are choosing to become an enemy of the coalition. Chen's expression did not change. We are choosing to follow the law. The transmission ended. HFY stared at the screen. Humans, always so stubborn, prepare boarding shuttles. We will retrieve the fugitive by force. On the surface, Chen turned from the console. Her team was already in position. Sergeant Webb checked his rifle. Lieutenant Tanaka set up sensors. The others worked with quiet efficiency. Zixthar watched from inside a shelter. Everything about the humans fascinated and terrified them. The humans moved easily in the low gravity. For Zixthar, each step was exhausting. For them, effortless. They wore armor that would crush most species. Carried weapons too large for any reasonable being. Yet they made it look simple. Chen approached, removing her helmet. We reviewed your evidence. The data is authentic. We are sending it to Earth Command. They will attack. You should give me to them. Save yourselves. Not going to happen. What the Council did is wrong. We do not hand people over to corrupt governments. But there are 6 warships. You are only 6 soldiers, Chen smiled. Not comforting. You know what humans are good at? Surviving. Our planet tried to kill us for millions of years. Ice ages, predators, diseases, we survived all of it. A few warships do not scare us. How can you be so calm? Because we prepared for this our whole lives. Every human grows up knowing the galaxy sees us as dangerous. We train harder. We plan for the worst. And when it comes, we are ready. She turned to Zixthar. The Council thinks they can bully anyone. They have never fought humans. That is their mistake. Zixthar wanted to believe her. But the numbers did not make sense. Chen seemed to read their thoughts. War is not just about numbers. It is about training, strategy, will. Humans have something most species do not. We do not know how to quit, an alarm sounded. Captain, incoming. Multiple dropships. 3 kilometers north. Chen pulled her helmet on. Time to work. Zixthar, stay here. You will be safe. What will you do? Protect those who cannot protect themselves. The 6 humans moved out, disappearing into the terrain. Zixthar watched them go. They were outnumbered by hundreds. Yet they acted like they had already won. The dropships landed with heavy thuds. Ramps lowered. Enforcement troops poured out. Over 200 soldiers in combat gear. Kryn, a species known for military training. Elite forces. They began advancing in formation. Organized, professional, overwhelming force designed to end resistance quickly. Zixthar pulled up the tactical display. The Kryn forces moved in coordinated groups. The humans were 6 small dots scattered across the landscape. It looked hopeless. Then the first explosion went off. The leading Kryn unit stopped. The explosion had come from behind them. How? The humans were supposed to be ahead. Another explosion on their left. Then another on the right. The Kryn formation began to break down as units turned to face threats from multiple directions. Zixthar watched in disbelief. The humans had somehow gotten behind the Kryn forces. They were moving at impossible speeds, using the moon's features as weapons, triggering rock slides and thermal vents. The Kryn tried to regroup, but every time they formed up, another attack came from a new direction. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. They struck and vanished. They moved like ghosts. On the flagship, HFY watched with alarm. What is happening? Why cannot our forces locate 6 soldiers? The humans use guerrilla tactics. They know the terrain. Our forces do not. We have over 200 troops. Find them! But finding them was not easy. The humans had trained on this moon for weeks. They knew every cave, every ridge, every thermal pocket. They had prepared. They were fighting on their terms. A Kryn officer's voice came over the channel. We need reinforcements. We are taking casualties. The humans are. The transmission cut off. HFY slammed his fist down. This was supposed to be simple. How had 6 humans turned it into chaos? The answer was clear. Humans did not fight like other species. They did not line up and trade fire. They hunted. They stalked. They waited for the perfect moment and struck without mercy. They were being predators, and the Kryn had never faced anything like it. Zixthar watched the display update. The Kryn forces were scattered, confused, some retreating, others pinned down by sniper fire. The humans had turned a simple landing into a nightmare, with just 6 soldiers. Chen's voice came over the channel. Calm. Commander Thexfor, your ground forces are in disarray. We disabled 3 dropships. You have 2 options. Withdraw and negotiate, or we continue. Your choice, a long pause. Thexfor was weighing his options. He expected easy victory. Instead, defeat. 6 soldiers should not be able to do this. It was not possible, but it was happening. What are your terms? We hold Zixthar until an independent tribunal reviews the evidence. Fair trial, fair process. The council will never agree. Then the council has something to hide. Make your choice. We can keep doing this all day. Can you? Another explosion echoed. Another Kryn unit calling for extraction. Thexfor looked at the display. His forces were broken. His mission failing. All because of 6 humans who refused to back down. Very well. We will withdraw. But this is not over. Never thought it was. But today it is. The Kryn forces began retreating, boarding damaged dropships and lifting off. The flagship remained in orbit but made no further moves. Inside the shelter, Zixthar stared at the display in amazement. The humans had won. 6 soldiers against an entire fleet. They had actually won, Chen returned, removing her helmet. She was breathing hard but smiling. Told you we do not quit. I do not understand how you did that. Training, planning, and a little human stubbornness. She sat next to Zixthar. We spent weeks preparing this moon. We knew someone would challenge us here, so we made sure we were ready. You planned for battle with the coalition? We planned for everything. That is how we survive. Chen looked at the sky where the fleet waited. This is not over. They will try again. But now they know we will not make it easy. Maybe that makes them think twice. Zixthar felt something shift inside. The humans had risked everything to protect one alien they did not know. They had faced impossible odds and won through preparation and courage. Thank you, Zixthar said quietly. Chen smiled. Just doing our job. Now let us get you somewhere safe while Earth Command figures out what happens next. Above them, the enforcement fleet held position. They had come for easy prey and found apex predators instead. The coalition had learned something important today. Never corner a human. They bite back. The battle was over. But Zixthar's evidence was spreading through encrypted channels. Other scientists were examining it. Other governments were asking questions. The Council's control was beginning to crack, and it all started because 6 humans decided that protecting one innocent life was worth fighting an entire fleet. Zixthar looked at Captain Chen and understood something profound. Humans were not feared because they were strong. They were feared because when they believed in something, nothing could make them stop. That was the real power of a Deathworlder. The message from Earth Command arrived 3 days after the standoff. Captain Chen read it twice, then called her team together in the operations center. Earth Command has made a decision, she announced. We are transporting Zixthar to Earth. A full tribunal will review the evidence. Representatives from multiple coalition species have been invited to observe. Sergeant Webb leaned against a console. The Council is not going to like that. The Council does not get a vote. Chen pulled up a star chart. We have a problem, though. The enforcement fleet is still in orbit. They are watching our every move. The moment we try to leave, they will intercept us. Lieutenant Tanaka studied the chart. We could call for reinforcements. Earth has 3 destroyers within a week's travel. A week is too long. The Council is putting pressure on member species. The longer we wait, the more support they gather. Chen pointed to a different route on the chart. We need to move now, and we need to do it without starting a war. Zixthar spoke from the corner where they had been listening quietly. You should leave me. I am not worth a war between Earth and the Coalition. Chen turned to face them. That is not your decision to make. The evidence you carry proves crimes against multiple species. Suppressed technology, murdered scientists. Entire civilizations held back. That is worth fighting for. But how will you get past 6 warships? Chen smiled. That predator smile that Zixthar was starting to recognize. We are not going to sneak past them. We are going to walk right through them. The plan was insane. That was the first thing Zixthar understood when Chen explained it. The second thing was that the humans actually believed it would work. They would load Zixthar onto their shuttle and request departure clearance. Just like normal procedure. As if 6 hostile warships were not waiting to capture them the moment they left the moon. They will fire on us immediately, Zixthar protested. Maybe, Chen agreed. Or maybe they will hesitate. Because firing on a human diplomatic vessel is an act of war, And the Council might be corrupt, but they are not stupid. They know what happens if they start a war with Earth. You are betting everything on them being afraid? Not afraid. Smart. There is a difference. Sergeant Webb checked his rifle for the 10th time. And if they do fire? Then we find out how good our new shielding system is. Chen pulled up technical schematics. Earth sent us an experimental shield generator last month. It is rated for capital ship weapons. Never been tested in actual combat, though. Never been tested, Webb repeated flatly. First time for everything. Zixthar watched the humans prepare with a mixture of terror and fascination. They were about to challenge 6 warships with a single shuttle. They had an untested defense system. They were outnumbered and outgunned, and they acted like it was just another day at work. The shuttle was small compared to the warships overhead. It could carry maybe 20 people comfortably, against vessels designed to transport thousands. But the humans had modified it extensively. The shield generator took up half the cargo bay. Additional power cells lined the walls. The engines had been upgraded beyond manufacturer specifications. Chen piloted. Webb and Tanaka took the gunner positions. The other 3 soldiers monitored systems. Zixthar sat in the passenger section, strapped in tight. All systems green, Tanaka reported. Shield generator ready. Chen activated the communication system. Enforcement Fleet, this is Terran Shuttle 7. We are requesting departure clearance for return to Earth. The response came from Commander Thexvor himself. Shuttle 7, your request is denied. Power down your engines and prepare for boarding. Commander, we are a diplomatic vessel operating under Earth authority. You have no jurisdiction to prevent our departure. You are harboring a fugitive. Surrender the criminal and you may leave. The individual aboard this shuttle is under Earth protection pending tribunal review. We will not surrender them. There was a pause. Zixthar could imagine Thexvor weighing his options. Attack and start a war, or let them go and face the Council's anger. If you attempt to leave, we will disable your vessel, Thexvor said finally. Chen glanced back at her team. They were ready. She looked at Zixthar and nodded once. Then she pushed the throttle forward. The shuttle lifted off the moon's surface, accelerating rapidly. Alarms immediately began sounding. The warships were locking weapons. Shields up, Chen ordered. The generator hummed to life. A faint shimmer surrounded the shuttle. Energy readings spiked across the control board. They are targeting us, Webb reported. Multiple lock-ons. Hold course. The first plasma bolt hit the shields. The shuttle shook but held together. The second and third hit almost simultaneously. Energy readings fluctuated but stayed green. Shields holding at 85%, Tanaka called out. More impacts. The shuttle was taking fire from multiple warships now. But the shields were holding. The experimental system was actually working. Zixthar gripped their restraints as the shuttle shook with each hit. They had never imagined being in the middle of a space battle. It was terrifying. The humans remained calm, calling out status reports and adjustments as if this happened every day. We are through their firing line, Chen announced. Engaging hyperdrive. Wait, Thexvor's voice came over the communication system. Wait, ceasefire. The plasma bolt stopped. The shuttle continued its trajectory, engines building power for the jump. Captain Chen, Thexvor continued, you have made your point. You will not surrender. We cannot stop you without destroying your vessel, which would mean war. That is correct, Commander. But understand this. The Council will not forget. Earth has made an enemy today. Earth made no enemy. The Council made an enemy when they decided to suppress entire civilizations, when they murdered scientists who learned too much. We are just the ones who called them out on it. Another pause. Then Thexvor spoke again, his voice bitter. Go, take your fugitive to Earth, have your tribunal. But when the Council proves their innocence, we will expect Zixthar returned to face justice. If the Council is innocent, we will absolutely return Zixthar. That is how justice works, Commander. Fair and transparent. You should try it sometime. Chen did not wait for a response. She engaged the hyperdrive. Reality bent around the shuttle. Stars stretched into lines. Then they were gone, jumping through hyperspace toward Earth. The shuttle crew relaxed slightly, but they kept monitoring systems, kept watching sensors, because the jump would take hours and anything could be waiting when they exited. Zixthar finally released their death grip on the restraints. You did it. You actually did it. Told you, Webb said without looking up from his console. We do not quit. What happens now? Chen swiveled her chair to face Zixthar. Now we go to Earth. You meet with the tribunal. You present your evidence, and we let the truth speak for itself. And if the council sends more ships, then we deal with them too. One problem at a time. Zixthar looked around at the 6 humans who had risked everything for someone they barely knew, who had faced down an entire fleet, who had walked through weapons fire without hesitation. Why? Zixthar asked. Why risk so much for me? Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she said, because it was right, because someone had to stand up to the council, because we are human, and humans do not abandon people who need help. Even when it is dangerous, especially when it is dangerous, that is when help matters most. The shuttle continued through hyperspace. Behind them, the enforcement fleet remained in orbit. Their mission failed. Ahead, Earth waited. And beyond that, a tribunal that would either expose the council's crimes or condemn Zixthar. But for the first time since the chase began, Zixthar felt something they had not felt in weeks: hope. Not because the outcome was certain, but because these humans had proven that someone still cared about truth, someone still cared about justice, someone was still willing to fight for what was right. And if Deathworlders like these existed, maybe the galaxy had a chance after all. The shuttle's navigation system chimed. Halfway to Earth, the humans settled in for the long journey. They checked weapons, monitored systems, stayed alert, because the battle might be over, but the war for truth was just beginning and humans never quit. Earth appeared on the view screen like a blue and green jewel. Zixthar stared at it with awe and fear. The Death World, the planet that forged the humans. It is beautiful, Zixthar said quietly. It is home, Chen replied. The shuttle approached slowly. Earth orbital control guided them through defense satellites and patrol ships. The planet took security seriously. They landed at a facility outside Geneva. Military personnel moved with efficiency. Professional soldiers, battle-ready. As Zixthar stepped off the shuttle, Earth's gravity hit them like a hammer. Their legs buckled. Chen caught them. Sorry, should have warned you. Earth gravity is about twice what you are used to. Zixthar struggled to stand. Every movement was exhausting. How do you live like this? We were born in it. It made us strong. A medical team arrived with a grav harness. They fitted it around Zixthar's body. The weight lifted. The harness compensated for gravity. Zixthar could breathe again. They were escorted into the facility. The building was huge. Inside corridors were wide and tall, built for human scale. Zixthar felt small here. The tribunal chamber was impressive. A large circular room with seats in rising tiers. Representatives from a dozen species sat waiting. All looked serious. At the center stood 3 judges. A human woman with gray hair, a Velcrin elder, one of Zixthar's own species, and a Kryn general. The human judge spoke. We are here to review evidence presented by Zixthar of Velcros. Evidence suggesting systematic suppression of technological advancement by the Coalition Council. This tribunal is neutral and independent. We seek only truth. She turned to Zixthar. Please present your findings. Zixthar moved to the center. A holographic display activated. Data began flowing. For 300 cycles, the Coalition Council has actively suppressed technological development. Zixthar began. Any civilization that advanced too quickly was targeted. Research was sabotaged. Scientists died in suspicious accidents. Progress was halted. The display showed pattern after pattern. Projects failing before breakthroughs. Grants denied without explanation. Brilliant minds disappearing. The council claimed they were maintaining stability, preventing dangerous technology. But the truth is different. They were maintaining power, keeping species dependent, ensuring no one could challenge their authority. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The evidence was undeniable. A council observer stood, an older Kryn in official robes. This is speculation. Coincidence twisted to appear sinister. Then explain this, Zixthar said, pulling up a communication. This is a direct order from a council member. It authorizes sabotage of a fusion research project. The project director died 2 days later. The report said equipment malfunction. But this proves murder. The chamber fell silent. The evidence was damning. The Kryn general on the panel stood. I fought in the coalition military for 40 cycles. I believed we served justice. If this is true, everything I fought for was a lie. Not everything, the human judge said. The coalition was built on good principles. But power corrupts. We are here to restore those principles. Hours passed. The case was overwhelming. Pattern after pattern of suppression, crime after crime. Finally, the judges deliberated. Then the human judge announced their decision. We find the evidence credible and compelling. The Coalition Council has engaged in systematic suppression. They have committed crimes against multiple species. This tribunal recommends immediate investigation by an independent council. The chamber erupted. Some cheered. Others protested. The council observer shouted about jurisdiction. But the truth was out. There was no going back. Chen stood beside Zixthar. You did it. You exposed them. We did it. Without you, I would be dead. The evidence destroyed. That is what we do. Outside, news of the findings spread across the galaxy. Within hours, protests erupted on dozens of worlds. Citizens demanding answers. Scientists sharing their stories. The council's control was crumbling. But the council was not surrendering peacefully. Reports came of fleet movements. Loyalists mobilizing. Preparing for war. Earth Command called an emergency meeting. Military leaders gathered to discuss options. Admiral Morrison addressed the room. The council is moving forces toward Earth. They claim we kidnapped a citizen and fabricated evidence. They demand we surrender Zixthar and submit to authority. Will they actually attack? Someone asked. Maybe. But we need to be ready. Chen spoke. Sir, if they attack Earth, they attack all of humanity. That is a line they might not want to cross. Unless they think they can win quickly, Morrison replied. The council has the largest fleet in the galaxy. We have better training. But we are outnumbered. Then we call for allies. Other species are questioning the council now. Some might join us. That is a gamble. Everything is a gamble. But waiting for attack is suicide. Morrison nodded. Contact our allies. See who stands with us. And prepare all defense stations. If the council wants war, we will give them one they will never forget. The call went out across human space. Earth was asking for help, and responses came back. The Talvex, whose research had been sabotaged, sent 3 cruisers. The Helix Confederation offered support. Even some Velcrin colonies declared they would defend Earth. Within days, a coalition of the willing had formed. United by common purpose, truth, justice, freedom from oppression. Zixthar watched the fleet assemble and felt something profound. This was bigger than one scientist. This was about the future of the galaxy. About what kind of civilization they wanted to be. The council fleet arrived a week later. Hundreds of warships dropping out of hyperspace. They took up position outside Earth's defense perimeter. Waiting, a transmission came through. A new voice, deeper, older, carrying authority. I'm Supreme Counselor Vextran. Earth has harbored a criminal and spread lies. Surrender the fugitive and submit to our authority or face consequences, Admiral Morrison replied. Earth does not recognize your authority. Zixthar has presented evidence of crimes. An independent tribunal found that evidence credible. If you have proof of innocence, present it. Otherwise, withdraw. You dare defy the coalition. We dare defend truth. If you attack, you will not fight just Earth. You will fight everyone who believes in justice. Look at your sensors. See how many ships stand with us. A long pause. Zixthar could imagine the counselor reviewing displays, seeing ships from a dozen species, all willing to fight. This is not over, Vextran said finally. It never is. But today you are not attacking Earth. Today you are thinking about whether your crimes are worth a war. Think carefully. The transmission ended. The council fleet held position. Then slowly they began withdrawing, not in defeat, but in retreat, because the cost was too high, because too many species knew the truth. As the last ship jumped away, cheers erupted across Earth. They had faced down the largest fleet in the galaxy. They had won without firing a shot. Zixthar stood beside Chen. What happens now? Now we rebuild. Create a new coalition based on cooperation, not control. It will take time. There will be challenges. But today we proved something important. What is that? That even Deathworlders can choose peace. But we will always choose justice first. Zixthar looked at the human beside them. This species that the galaxy feared. This species that risked everything for truth. This species that never quit. Thank you for everything, Chen smiled. Welcome to Earth, friend. Welcome to freedom. And somewhere in the galaxy, other oppressed beings heard the story. Heard how one scientist and 6 humans stood against the most powerful government in known space. Heard how truth prevailed over corruption. The story spread. And with it, hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, things could change. That the powerful could be held accountable. That justice could exist for everyone, not just the elite. The chase across galaxies had ended on Earth. But something new was beginning. A movement. A revolution. A fight for a better future. And at the center of it all were humans. The Deathworlders who never quit. The species who fought for what was right no matter the cost. They had shown the galaxy something important. Strength was not just about weapons and fleets. It was about courage, about standing for truth when everyone else was silent, about protecting the weak and challenging the powerful. That was the real power of humanity, not their physical abilities, not their technology, but their willingness to fight for justice, even when the odds were impossible, especially when the odds were impossible, because humans did not know how to quit, and sometimes that was exactly what the galaxy needed. 6 months had passed since the tribunal. The galaxy was different now. The old coalition council had collapsed. Some members were imprisoned. Others fled. The organization was being rebuilt with representatives from every species. Zixthar stood in a laboratory on Earth examining data. This lab was dedicated to research the council had suppressed. Fusion technology, advanced propulsion, medical breakthroughs, decades of lost progress being recovered. Scientists from across the galaxy worked here. Velkrin, Kryn, Talvex, human. All species together, all pushing boundaries. This was what cooperation looked like. Captain Chen visited regularly. She was still military, still ready. But these days she spent more time in diplomatic roles. Earth was building bridges. How is the research going? Chen asked. Zixthar looked up. Excellent. We are making progress the council said was impossible. Turns out it was not impossible. Just forbidden. That is usually the case. How are the negotiations? Complicated. But moving forward. The new coalition is taking shape. More democratic. More transparent. Not perfect, but better. Zixthar set down their tools. I have been thinking about what happened. About why it worked. What do you mean? The council had power, resources, military might. But 6 humans stopped them. How? Chen considered. Strategically, we had advantages. We knew the terrain. We trained harder. We used their overconfidence against them. She paused. But that is not why we won. We won because we believed in something bigger. The council fought to maintain power. We fought for truth. You risked your life for someone you barely knew. That is what humans do. We protect those who need protection. We fight for what is right even when it costs us. Zixthar gestured at the lab. And now this. All this progress. Because you made that choice. You made choices too. You could have destroyed the evidence. Run further hidden, but you came forward. That took courage. I was terrified. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite fear. An alarm sounded. Chen checked her device. Someone is here to see you. They walked to the entrance. Outside, a transport had landed. A group of Velkrin scientists emerged. Zixthar recognized colleagues. One of them, Tixivar, approached. We heard about the new research programs. We want to help. You came all the way to Earth? We heard what you did. How you exposed the council. We want to be part of this. More scientists were arriving. Different species. All drawn by the same thing. The chance to work freely. Over the next weeks, the facility expanded. More scientists. More projects. More breakthroughs. Technologies suppressed for centuries were being rediscovered. But it was not just about technology. It was about cooperation. Species that had never worked together were now collaborating. Building trust. Chen watched with satisfaction. This was what Earth had fought for. Not conquest. Just freedom. One evening, Zixthar found Chen outside looking at the stars. You seem thoughtful. Just thinking about how we got here. 1 fugitive. 1 chase. 6 soldiers. And now look at all this. Do you think it will last? Maybe, maybe not. Power corrupts. Someone will try to control things again. But that is why we stay vigilant. You do not sound optimistic. I am realistic. Change is hard. There will be setbacks. But as long as beings are willing to stand for what is right, there is hope. I never thanked you properly. You thanked me plenty. No, I mean for changing how I see the galaxy. T4, I thought power was everything. That might made right, but you taught me different. What did I teach you? That strength comes from conviction. That courage comes from purpose. That true power is protecting others, not controlling them. Chen was quiet. You had that courage too. You stood against the council when it would have been easier to stay silent. Because you showed me it was possible. Maybe you always had it inside. The galaxy is full of good beings. They just need someone to stand up first. You did that, we did that, together. That is the lesson. Alone we are vulnerable. Together we are strong. The council forgot that. They thought they could rule through fear. But cooperation is always stronger. A message came through. Chen read it. Earth Command wants me back. Reports of conflict in the outer territories. Former council loyalists causing trouble. You are leaving? For a while. But I will be back. Earth is committed to this new coalition. And if the loyalists are strong, Chen's smile turned predatory, then they will learn the same lesson. Do not threaten those under human protection. They returned inside. The lab was busy. Scientists working, data flowing, progress happening. This was the future the council had tried to prevent. This was what freedom looked like. Zixthar felt pride. Pride in what they had helped create. Pride in standing up when it mattered. The chase across galaxies seemed like a lifetime ago. The fear, the desperation, all of it led to this. To freedom. To hope. And it started because one scientist refused to stay silent. Because 6 soldiers refused to abandon someone in need. Chen left the next morning. Her team was ready. All prepared to protect the new coalition. Zixthar watched the shuttle lift off. Watched it disappear. And thought about how much had changed. The humans were still warriors. Still dangerous. Still feared. But now the galaxy understood. That danger was not directed at the innocent. It was reserved for oppressors. Humans were apex predators. But they hunted the predators that preyed on others. That was the real meaning of Deathworlder. Not that they came from a harsh world, but that they carried that world's lessons: survive, adapt, protect the pack, fight for what matters, never quit. The galaxy was still dangerous. There were still threats, still conflicts, still beings who wanted power. But now there were also humans, watching, waiting, ready to stand against oppression, and that made all the difference. Zixthar returned to the lab. And there was work to do, technologies to develop, a better future to build. The chase was over. The running had stopped. Now came the building, and somewhere in the galaxy, a young scientist heard the story, heard about the evidence, the chase, the humans, the truth, and thought, maybe I can do that too. That was how revolutions started. One brave voice, one person standing up. The council had fallen. But the lesson remained: stand for truth. Fight for justice. Protect the weak. Never quit. That was the legacy of the chase. That was the gift humans gave the galaxy. Not just freedom from the council, but the understanding that freedom was possible, that oppression could be challenged, as long as someone was willing to fight for it. The research continued. The coalition grew stronger. The galaxy moved forward, but the story became legend. A reminder that courage existed in all species, that power could be challenged, that justice was worth fighting for. Zixthar often thought about that first moment on the moon, when death seemed certain, when they met the humans and everything changed. Those 6 soldiers had saved more than one life. They had saved the idea that good could triumph, that truth mattered. That was humanity's gift. Not just their strength, but their willingness to use it for others. Earth became known not as a death world, but as a world of protectors, a place where the oppressed could find refuge, and Captain Sarah Chen became a symbol, not of war, but of what warriors could be when they fought for the right reasons. Years would pass. New challenges would come, but the foundation had been laid. A galaxy where cooperation mattered more than control, where truth mattered more than power, where courage could come from anyone. It started with a chase. It ended with hope. And in between, 6 humans showed the galaxy what it meant to never quit. The laboratory continued its work. New discoveries were made. New technologies shared. The galaxy advanced together, no longer held back by those who feared progress. Zixthar became a symbol too, of speaking truth to power, of refusing to be silenced, of standing up even when the odds seemed impossible. Together, the scientist and the soldiers had changed everything. Not through violence or conquest, but through courage and conviction. The galaxy remembered. The story spread. And wherever oppression existed, beings looked to Earth and thought, If they can stand against tyranny, so can we. That was the real victory. Not defeating the Council, but inspiring others to fight for their own freedom. The chase across galaxies was over, but the fight for justice never ended. And as long as humans existed, as long as beings like Zixthar refused to stay silent, there was always hope. Hope that tomorrow could be better than today. Hope that truth could overcome lies. Hope that courage could defeat fear. That was the legacy. That was the story. That was humanity, and it was glorious.